The sizzle of garlic in olive oil was one of my favorite sounds. It felt like control, precise heat, careful timing. I was making penne arrabbiata, nothing fancy, just enough spice to shake off a long Tuesday. I had the wine breathing and the table set just the way Tessa liked. She hadn't looked up from her phone since she walked through the door. "Tessa," I said, flipping the garlic before it browned. "You've been glued to that thing all night." She glanced up with a lazy smile, her thumb still flicking. "Just work. You know how it is when we're on deadline, right?" Except I didn't know how it was. I'd met her boss. A man so technophobic he still printed out his emails. And I'd never seen deadline make someone grin at their screen like they were watching a comedy reel. "Who's so funny?" I asked, not looking at her this time. "Just Jen," she said. "You don't know her." Her body shifted on the bar stool. Legs crossed. Shoulders slightly curled. Subtle, but I noticed. I notice everything. I'm an architect. I build entire lives from foundation to finish. And right now something was off in the frame. The phone buzzed again, lighting up the counter. I caught a glimpse of a name, Nyla, and a bank alert tucked right under it. I dried my hands on a towel. "Odd time for a bank notification, huh?" Tessa didn't look up. "Oh, that's nothing. Just a refund for a lunch I had to cover. We get those now and then." "A refund?" I repeated. "At 7:53 at night?" She finally glanced up, her eyes flicking to mine before darting back down. "Jackson, can we not turn dinner into an interrogation?" I exhaled slowly and returned to the stove. The sauce had thickened. Too much. I killed the heat. Dinner was quiet. Not the peaceful kind. The kind where your own thoughts scrape too loudly inside your skull. She pushed her pasta around her plate. Ate maybe 4 bites. I kept waiting for her to say something, a compliment on the sauce, a question about my day. Nothing. Just as I stood to start cleaning, she perked up at another buzz. "Oh, Nyla's swinging by for a minute," she said. "She forgot something last week." "It's almost 9, I said. Not accusatory. Just factual. She's in the area." Tessa smiled, that same tight-lipped version I used to get when she wanted to change the subject. "It won't be long." She smoothed her hair in the hallway mirror before she opened the door. When Nyla stepped in, they hugged like they hadn't seen each other in years, not days. Then they disappeared into the guest room, door shut, voices low. I sat at the table for a long time, the empty wine glasses between us still full of silence. It wasn't just dinner that had gone cold. Something else had too. The next morning, Tessa was already gone by the time I came downstairs. Her half of the bed was cold. Coffee pot empty. She'd left a sticky note on the fridge, "Early meeting. Don't wait for me." That was the start of a new routine. 3 days in a row, she left before sunrise and came home long after dark. On Friday, she mentioned a new colleague I'd never heard of. "Gavin," she said while toeing off her heels. "He's heading the finance portion of our restructure." I'd been with her at company events. I knew the names. Gavin wasn't one of them. "Gavin, huh?" I said, keeping my voice neutral. "New guy?" "Yeah, he transferred from the East Coast office." She didn't look at me when she said it. Just walked into the bathroom and closed the door. Later that weekend, she left a book out on the kitchen counter, The Art of Letting Go. On Sunday, another one appeared on her nightstand, Awaken the Flame Within. I flipped through them while she was in the shower. Lots of underlined passages about independence. Emotional evolution. She'd highlighted a line that read, "Sometimes love becomes a habit rather than a choice." I stared at that page longer than I should have. That night, as we brushed our teeth side by side, I asked casually, "You reading anything good lately?" She spit out toothpaste and shrugged. "Just some stuff about mindfulness." "I've been feeling stuck." "Stuck how?" She met my eyes in the mirror and gave a brittle smile. "Jackson, not everything's a blueprint. You can't analyze your way through people." I didn't sleep much. The following Thursday, she came down the stairs in heels I hadn't seen in a year and a dress I hadn't seen in 2. A silky navy thing with an open back and sharp lines. She looked stunning. And unfamiliar. "Where are you going?" I asked. "Drinks with Nyla," she said. "Her team's finishing a rollout." "At a rooftop lounge?" She grabbed her clutch. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I've known Nyla since college and she wears sneakers to dinner." Tessa narrowed her eyes. "Why do you always assume the worst?" I didn't answer. Just stood there while she walked out the door. Later, I went out to the garage. Her car was gone. I touched the hood of mine. Cold. At midnight, I heard the garage door creak open. I waited 5 minutes, then stepped outside. Her car engine was warm. Too warm for someone who said she'd been just parked around the corner with Nyla. When she came inside, her hair was windblown. Lipstick smudged. No shopping bags. No takeout containers. She moved through the kitchen like a stranger in her own home. Did Nyla get home okay? I asked. She blinked like I'd pulled her out of a fog. Yeah. Why? I shrugged. Just wondering. She disappeared upstairs without another word. I sat down at the dining table in the same chair I used every night, the one across from hers. But her seat stayed empty, and it was starting to feel like that would be permanent. By the following Monday, even Marcus had noticed something was off. We were reviewing zoning specs at the firm's downtown office, blueprints spread across the table, coffee going cold between us, when he finally leaned back and said, "All right, man. What's going on?" I kept tracing the same drainage angle with my pen. "Jackson," he said again, voice lower. "You've read that same paragraph 3 times. You missed the setback shift. That's not like you." I looked up. Marcus wasn't just my business partner. We'd been friends since grad school. He was the best kind of colleague, direct but never cruel. "Tessa's been different lately," I said. He tilted his head. "Different how?" I sighed. "She's gone more than she's home. Makes up new coworkers I've never met. Spends hours texting but won't say who." I found self-help books in our bedroom, all about reinvention and emotional detachment. Marcus didn't say anything for a few seconds. Just nodded slowly. "You think she's cheating?" I hesitated. The word felt heavy. "I think she's preparing for something. Maybe an exit. She's disconnected. Like she's already halfway gone and waiting for the right time to vanish completely." He exhaled through his nose. "Man, I've been there." I looked at him. He'd never talked much about his divorce, just that it had gotten ugly fast. "She started sleeping in the guest room," he said. "Said it was because of my snoring. But really, she was already gone emotionally. By the time I figured it out, she'd hired an attorney and frozen the accounts. I had no clue. Didn't even see it coming." "What did you do?" He gave a small, tight smile. "Started documenting everything. Quietly. Financials, text messages, anything that would help if it got ugly. Hired my own lawyer. The sooner you know what you're dealing with, the better." "I've already started," I admitted. "I opened a new bank account last week. Kept it quiet. Nothing big. Just a place to move money slowly if I need to. And I've been taking screenshots of odd transactions. Her bank alerts are coming in at weird hours. Names I don't recognize." Marcus raised his eyebrows. "Good. Smart. You don't want to be scrambling once it hits the fan." "I'm not angry," I said. "Not yet. I'm just tired of being caught off guard. If she's building a story about me being distant or controlling or whatever the narrative is, I want the receipts." Marcus nodded, his tone more serious now. "Then start compiling. Quietly. You don't confront her yet. You prepare." That night, I waited until Tessa was asleep, or at least pretending to be, then sat in my office with the door closed. I logged into our joint accounts and exported every monthly statement. I copied receipts, transfer notices, restaurant charges in neighborhoods she never mentioned visiting. I uploaded everything to a private cloud folder titled simply Foundation Notes. Because if she was going to blow this marriage up, I was going to make sure the wreckage didn't land on me. It happened on a Thursday. Nothing dramatic. No screaming match, no sudden discovery. Just a small, quiet accident that cracked everything open. Tessa had left her laptop on the kitchen counter, lid slightly ajar. Steam from her shower curled beneath the bathroom door upstairs. I was only supposed to grab a napkin. But the screen caught my eye, a bright, open window with a group chat blinking in the corner. 3 names across the top, Tessa, Nyla, and Jen. I shouldn't have clicked. But I did. The scroll bar stretched deep. Weeks, maybe months of messages. I didn't have to dig. The first few lines were enough. Nyla, "So, still planning to do it at Easter brunch?" Jen, "That's savage. In front of both families?" Damn. Tessa, "That's the point. I want it clean. No back and forth, no chance for him to twist it." I stared at the screen. My body felt distant, like I was outside of it. Detached. Tessa, "He's the type to pretend things are normal forever. If I don't make it big in public, he'll just wait me out." Nyla, "Do you think he'll lose it?" Tessa, "Jackson? No. He'll sit there and nod like a goddamn monk. He doesn't do messy. That's why it'll work." I read slower then. Every message like a pin pushed deeper. Jen, "You seriously gonna blindside him?" Tessa, "He's been blindsiding me for years. With his silence. With his plans. This is balance." Nyla, "Girl, you're just finally waking up. He's textbook emotionally unavailable. You're doing him a favor." The messages blurred. It wasn't just that they were planning to ambush me with divorce papers in front of my family. It was the way they wrote about me. Like I was a nuisance. A relic. A cardboard cutout of a husband, useful until discarded. Then this. Tessa, we're making it symbolic. Easter, rebirth, blah blah. I even made a folder called Spring Renewal, face with ears of joy. Jen, LMAO stop. Send screenshots of his face when it happens. Nyla, no bet he won't even flinch. Jackson is stone. I sat there for a long time. No anger. No panic. Just a cold, dull weight pressing against my chest. When I finally stood, my hands were steady. I plugged in a flash drive. Copied the chat logs. Every message. Every petty joke and cruel observation. Then I opened my private cloud folder, foundation notes, and added a new file, brunch plan, primary evidence. Next, I photographed the screen with a timestamped app, saved it as a PDF, and emailed it to myself with the subject line, Contingency A. By the time Tessa came downstairs, fresh-faced and humming to herself, the laptop was exactly where she left it. The screen dark. The secret intact. She smiled like nothing had changed. Want to do takeout tonight? I nodded, returned the smile. Sure. Whatever you feel like. Because now I knew everything. And I wasn't going to stop her. I was going to let her walk straight into her own performance, perfectly rehearsed, smugly confident. And I would be ready, waiting, one step ahead. I met Caroline Cho the next morning. Her office was perched on the 12th floor of a mid-rise downtown, just above a pastry shop that always smelled like burnt sugar and butter. Inside, everything was clean lines and deliberate quiet. No blaring TVs. No assistant making small talk. Just polished wood, old law books, and a woman who looked like she could turn a courtroom to stone. She didn't waste time. You said your wife's planning to serve you at a family gathering? She asked, glancing over the folder I'd handed her. I nodded. Easter brunch. Both families. She's turning it into theater. Caroline didn't even blink. Then you need to file first. Now, if she serves you in a public setting, she controls the narrative. If you file ahead of her quietly, precisely, you own the timeline. I don't want to humiliate her, I said. I just want to protect myself. That's the difference between revenge and preparation, she said, flipping a page. You're here early. That's good. Most men don't come until the paperwork's already on the table and the bank accounts are half empty. I said nothing. She pointed at one of the charges I'd highlighted. These boutique transfers. Who's Sundry Services Consulting? No idea. Not tied to anything she's ever mentioned. She nodded. We'll subpoena it later. Could be financial misconduct. Maybe fraud, maybe just bad optics. Either way, it strengthens your case. I exhaled slowly. I've already opened a separate account. Documented everything I could. She doesn't know. Caroline leaned back. Perfect. Keep it that way. What we need next is a full asset list. House deeds, car titles, joint investments, tax filings. Anything she could use or claim. That night, I went home and got to work. While Tessa slept upstairs curled in a perfect, practiced silhouette, I pulled out file boxes from the hallway closet and laid everything out on the dining table like blueprints. It was the first time I'd looked at our entire life like a project. Lines of ownership, equity breakdowns, beneficiary forms. Her name here. My name there. Signatures from better times. I scanned everything into a cloud drive. Created redundant backups. Put the originals in a fireproof case. Caroline had given me a checklist. I didn't skip a single line. Then I opened my laptop and created a second folder labeled Spring Renewal, Controlled Release. Inside, I placed two things, a copy of my formal petition for divorce filed that afternoon and a spreadsheet of financial irregularities dating back 8 months. Tessa still hadn't come downstairs when I finished. Just the distant hum of white noise from our bedroom. Her unread books still sat on the nightstand. The art of letting go, mocking me in silence. Let her think she was still the one orchestrating the show. Because soon enough she'd realize she was the one being watched. Studied. Outlined. And I'd already built the exit before she reached for the match. The next weekend I drove up to my godmother Irene's house, a little brick colonial nestled in the hills outside of Franklin. She was retired now, mostly gardening and reading legal thrillers, but once upon a time she'd been a family lawyer with a sharp pen and a sharper tongue. She answered the door in house shoes and a cardigan, raising one eyebrow when she saw the manila folders under my arm. Either you're planning a hostile takeover, she said, or you're finally sick of pretending your wife isn't preparing to ghost you with flair. I smiled despite everything. Bit of both. We sat at her kitchen table, the one that still had faint knife grooves from when I was 10 and thought a butter spreader could double as a whittling tool. I laid out my documentation, the chat logs, the financials, the withdrawal records. Her expression didn't change much, but I noticed the way her fingers tapped faster on the rim of her mug. "She's planning to hit me with the papers at Easter brunch," I said. "In front of my parents. Hers. Our nieces. Everyone." Irene sighed, low and long. "Jesus. That girl always did have a dramatic streak. But this? This isn't theater, it's cruelty dressed up in pastel." "I need to protect the house," I said quietly. "Before she gets clever." She nodded. "Then let's make sure she can't touch it." Irene called her old law partner, Jack Enright, and within a few hours we were sitting in his office with forms already drawn up. They transferred the title of the house to a family trust with me as sole beneficiary. Legal, discreet, and entirely airtight. "Now, even if she tries to contest it," Jack said, flipping through the last signature page, "she's swinging at air. No spousal claim sticks if you can prove intention before the breakdown." That night, back at Irene's, I stood in the basement staring at the old shelving unit where she kept her tax boxes and Christmas decorations. It smelled like cedar and dust and something else, a kind of buried calm. "I need a quiet place," I said. "Somewhere nobody looks. Just for a while." She didn't ask why. Just pointed at the workbench in the corner and said, "There's a heater plug under the shelf. Stay out of the paint cans and don't rearrange my spice rack. The cinnamon's already a mess." I spent the next few nights there after Tessa went to bed. I built what I called my record vault, a series of labeled binders with printed chat logs, copies of bank transfers, car GPS data showing her locations didn't match her stories. A folder full of screenshots from her unlocked phone, late-night texts, passwords scribbled in her notes app, more transfers labeled vaguely as consulting. I even included a section of cell tower pings triangulated from our shared account, proving she'd never been near Nyla's bar the night she claimed. It was methodical, quiet work. Exactly what I needed. And every night I left that basement, I felt a little steadier. She thought she had the upper hand, but the truth was sealed in that basement, cataloged, time-stamped, undeniable. And soon, the whole house of cards she'd built was going to collapse under the weight of its own showmanship. Easter morning arrived bright and uncomfortably warm for April. I'd mowed the lawn the day before, wiped down every window, even set out folding chairs for the overflow. Our home looked perfect. Polished. Inviting. Deceptive. The smell of glazed ham filled the kitchen. Tessa floated around like a seasoned hostess, cheerful, poised, cheeks flushed with effort or excitement, I couldn't tell. Her phone never left her side. I watched her check it 4 times in the 20 minutes before guests arrived. Our families showed up in waves, her mother with a flowered scarf and forced compliments, my sister with her toddlers already sticky with sugar. Tessa greeted everyone with a sparkle in her voice, offering mimosas and warm quiche like nothing was brewing under the surface. I wore a pale blue button-down. No tie. Calm. Civil, forgettable. Just after dessert, carrot cake and espresso, Tessa tapped her spoon against her glass and stood. "Everyone," she said, voice light and sweet like the lemon frosting she hadn't baked. "I want to say something before the kids run off and the wine settles in too much." My heart beat steadily. Across the table, Marcus met my eyes for a fraction of a second and gave a slight nod. He didn't know everything, but he knew enough. Tessa turned to me and smiled. "Jackson," she said, drawing out the word. "You've been a constant." A few people chuckled, confused. Others just listened. She reached into her handbag, the one she'd kept zipped shut the entire afternoon, and pulled out a slim envelope. After a lot of reflection, she continued, "And with compassion in my heart, I've decided it's time for both of us to grow. To let go of what no longer serves us." She stepped toward me and placed the envelope beside my plate. "These are the formal papers," she said, her voice trembling just enough to feel rehearsed. "I didn't want to do this in private. I wanted to be honest. Transparent. With everyone here because you've all supported us." There were gasps. A few people murmured in confusion. Tessa looked down like she was doing something brave. I gave it a beat. Then I reached under my chair and pulled out a gift-wrapped box. Small. Tied in cream ribbon. "I have something for you too," I said. Her face faltered. She took the box slowly, glancing around with a smile that didn't quite hold. Nyla leaned forward, lips parted, visibly bracing for the show. Tessa opened the lid. Inside, a thick black binder and a small USB drive. Taped to the cover was a card that read simply, "Spring Renewal." Her mouth opened. She didn't speak. I stood up and turned to the sideboard, where I had already positioned the laptop and portable projector. The slideshow began. First slide, a screenshot of the group chat, Tessa, Nyla, and Jen planning the Easter reveal. The messages were zoomed in, highlighted, timestamped. The second slide, A bank statement showing a $2,300 payment labeled Sundry Services Consulting traced to a private hotel suite in Asheville. A murmur rippled through the room. Next slide, photos of Tessa's car parked in a residential neighborhood on nights she claimed to be at Nyla's, same timestamp as her alleged girls' nights. Tessa's hands trembled. She dropped the USB drive onto the table. "What the hell is this?" she whispered. I faced the room. "This," I said calmly, "is the truth." People shifted uncomfortably. Her father leaned forward, brows furrowed. My mother looked like she'd been holding her breath for 10 minutes. Nyla stood abruptly. "Jackson, this is disgusting. You're humiliating her." "No," I said. "She orchestrated this. I just brought the evidence." Tessa tried to speak, but nothing came out. The slideshow kept rolling. Receipts. Messages. Cell tower data. Laughter turned into silence. Faces drained. And Tessa? Tessa finally looked small. Exactly the way she wanted me to look when she handed me those papers. The room was silent, but not still. It breathed with shock. Slide after slide clicked forward on the screen: bank transactions, message screenshots, even photos of Tessa at a boutique hotel 2 towns over, timestamped exactly when she claimed to be working late. Nobody spoke, but the atmosphere had shifted from confusion to discomfort to a sharp, collective realization. Tessa's mother sat rigid, her fork frozen halfway to her mouth. Her father looked stunned, muttering, Is that Jen in the messages too?" I clicked to the next slide. "Jen, he'll just sit there. Bet we can get through half the brunch before he even blinks." "Tessa, he's not gonna do anything. He's passive. That's what makes it perfect." Someone near the back of the room let out a soft, disbelieving Jesus. Tessa finally stood. Her voice cracked when she tried to speak. This isn't what it looks like." I turned to face her fully. Calm. Grounded. "You planned to ambush me. In front of our families. Humiliate me while everyone was eating carrot cake. And you thought I'd just sit there and take it." Her mouth opened, but no words came. From across the room, my sister spoke. "Tessa," she said flatly, "is any of this fake?" Tessa looked around, flailing. Jackson is emotionally checked out. He's always been cold. I was lonely." "You called him a safe fool in that group chat," Marcus said quietly. "That wasn't loneliness. That was cruelty." Tessa's face twisted. "You don't understand our marriage. He's emotionally unavailable. You're all buying into his little performance." "Then explain the hotel receipts," I said. "The fake work dinners. The payments to shell companies. The burner Uber rides." More silence. Nyla stood suddenly, hands on her hips. "This is between them. We don't need to judge, eh?" "You helped plan it," I said, clicking forward. A screenshot of Nyla's message appeared on the screen. "Nyla, Easter is genius. Drop the papers after dessert so he doesn't make a scene." Nyla paled. "That's out of context." My mother stood up, her hands trembling. "Tessa," she said, barely louder than a whisper, "you invited me here to watch you destroy my son in public. What kind of person?" Tessa looked at her like she didn't recognize her. "He's not the victim. You made him one," my father snapped. I stepped forward and reached into my jacket pocket, pulling out a stack of envelopes. "These are cease and desist notices," I said calmly. "Jen, Nyla, and anyone else who participated in the targeted harassment or distributed defamatory content. The digital evidence has already been secured and timestamped. Any attempt to claim this was a joke or misconstrued will be treated as malicious intent." A low, stunned gasp broke the air. "And by the way," I added, setting another envelope down beside Tessa's untouched mimosa, "I filed for divorce 3 weeks ago. You'll find the official petition inside. Filed first with full supporting documentation. Including all of this." "You've been planning this," she said, her voice small now. You set me up." "No," I said. "I gave you every chance to stop. I watched you test the boundaries and wait for me to flinch. I didn't. Because I was preparing." Tessa turned to her parents. "He's manipulating everything. You believe this? After all we've—" Her mother looked away. Her father spoke over her. "I think you need to leave, Tessa." Jen was already gone. Nyla stood frozen for a few more seconds before grabbing her purse and hurrying out. I watched Tessa sway for a moment, like someone caught in the aftershock of a fall they didn't see coming. "You wanted a show," I said quietly. "Congratulations. You got one." And as she walked out of her own orchestrated finale, the room didn't applaud. It turned away. The front door closed behind Tessa with a dull, final thud. The kind of sound that lingered. The kind that didn't just mark someone's exit, it marked an ending. I stayed standing, hands loosely clasped behind my back, eyes scanning the room. No one was speaking anymore. Just slow, embarrassed movements. People pushing back chairs, glancing at one another, trying to figure out how to leave a party that had become a reckoning. I cleared my throat and spoke, level and low. There are a few more things. Heads turned. Everyone froze again. Tessa has 30 days to vacate the house. I've already initiated the process through legal channels. Per the prenup and given the documentation of deceit and suspected fraud, she is not entitled to spousal support. Her father let out a breath he'd been holding. I stepped toward the buffet table, picked up the envelope I'd handed her earlier, still unopened, and slid it back into my coat pocket. Any attempt by her or her friends to distribute false statements will be met with legal action. If you receive anything, contact Caroline Cho, my attorney. Her card is in the foyer. My voice stayed even, but I felt the heat rising in my chest. Not rage. Not pain. Something else. Finality, maybe. A few people nodded. A few stared at their shoes. No one questioned me. Tessa's mother stepped forward, looking pale and shaken. Jackson. I don't know what to say. I had no idea. I gave her a small nod. You don't have to say anything. Just remember what silence looks like. Because when people were laughing about how I'd react, no one said stop. She opened her mouth, then shut it. My mother approached next. She placed her hand gently on my shoulder and squeezed once. You handled it with grace, she whispered. I nodded. Thanks. Then she leaned in and added, just low enough for me to hear, I always had a feeling about her. Something off. I didn't want to say it, but I knew. I managed a tight smile. You weren't wrong. Behind her, Marcus gave me a small salute with his glass. I raised mine back. Quiet acknowledgement between soldiers. As the last guests trickled out, I gathered the projector, the laptop, the carefully prepared evidence I never wanted to use but had known I'd need. One by one, they went back into the padded case like tools after a job well done. I was halfway through cleaning up the dining room when my phone buzzed. Tessa, I messed up. Can we just talk? I stared at the screen. The bubbles blinked. She was still typing. I didn't read the next message. Didn't need to. I deleted the thread. No reply. No more second chances. That door was closed. Locked. Bricked over. An hour later, I met with Caroline over a secure video call. She had already filed the follow-up motions. Served the cease and desists. Tracked the last few assets that needed freezing. You're 6 steps ahead, she said. It's rare. Most people are still shocked at this point. You're already rebuilding. I nodded. Because I knew what was coming. And now? Now she did too. 6 months later, I stood by the window of our new office, top floor of a renovated industrial building in downtown Nashville. Exposed brick, skylights, open beams. Clean lines. Purposeful light. The kind of space that said, we built this from scratch and we're not hiding it. Marcus walked in holding 2 glasses of champagne, grinning like a man who just outrun a storm. City just signed off, he said. Phase 2 is officially ours. I took the glass. The park redesign? He nodded. $3 million contract. We're not just back, man. We're winning. We toasted and drank, the bubbly sharp and cold. I stared out at the skyline, cranes and steel silhouettes cutting against a hazy orange sun. It didn't feel like escape anymore. It felt like arrival. After everything fell apart, Marcus and I had rebranded the firm. New name. New ethos. We picked our clients with care. Projects that meant something, spaces for people, not egos. The press had noticed. So had the city. I opened the bottom drawer of my desk and pulled out a slim envelope. Guess who tried to contest the settlement again, I said. Marcus raised an eyebrow. She still thinks she has a case? Her lawyer does. 3rd motion in 2 months. Denied again. I tossed the letter into the shred bin. The courts had upheld everything, the house trust, the financial trail, the documented planning of a public ambush. Tessa had nothing left to claim. No spousal support. No equity share. No traction with the judge. The evidence had been too clear, too thorough. I'd heard through mutual acquaintances that Jen had lost her position after HR caught wind of the chat logs. Nyla had moved to Colorado. Personal reasons. But anyone who'd seen the slideshow knew better. They had become quiet examples. Not just to our circle, but to anyone watching from the sidelines. This is what happens when you build your narrative on lies and underestimate the quiet guy. There were no apologies. No reckonings. Just a ripple of silence where they used to be. Last week, I got a letter. Handwritten. No return address. Tessa's cursive unmistakable. I didn't open it. Didn't need to. Instead, I dropped it directly into the paper shredder at home and watched the pieces fall into place. It didn't feel like revenge. It felt like insulation. There was peace in not needing the last word. Marcus clinked his glass against mine again. You think you'll ever date again? I smiled faintly. Maybe. But I like the quiet. Outside, the city moved, cars below like toy pieces, people too small to recognize but large enough to remind me how far I'd come. For years, I lived in someone else's version of control, silent, methodical, patient. And when it cracked, I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I just prepared. And when it all fell apart, I had already built the landing. Up here, above it all, I finally understood what that self-help book was trying to say. Letting go isn't a free-fall. Not if you know how to build a parachute. Not if you refuse to be defined by someone else's collapse. And I had built something better. Not just a firm. Not just a future. A life. Mine.